Love you, brother.
Look at that shirt. Absolutely.
There it is.
Perfect. Thank you kindly.
For Jake, long overdue. Miss you, brother.
Board.
Oh, it's an Elite 150. It's an antique.
I
It's
guess
got
so.
Sims binding, original Sims binding. Yeah,
Look at that.
we don't ride it anymore, but it's on the wall.
We're with Doug from Chester with a vintage Burton Snowboard. Tell us a little about that board. How old is it?
I just actually, his friend Jimmy, who I just met, knows more about the board than I do.
How old is that board?
So that board's a 1982 Burton backyard. It's pretty rare.
Wow.
So back in the day, a lot of people used to buy there was two boards. There was a back hill and a backyard.
Yeah.
The back hill was the one with the bindings, and a lot of people purchased that board. And the backyard was the cheaper version without bindings. It just had a power cord.
Right.
And this board is more rare than some of those back hills.
Oh, my
but that's
goodness.
from 1982. And the
82.
interesting part is it has Jake Burton Carpenter's initials right here.
Oh, look at that.
So JBC, Jake Burton Carpenter.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Very cool board.
Yeah, this is just cool. Very cool. Thank you very much. What's happening today?
I'm delighted to be here seeing the town of Londonderry get a state sign honoring Jake Burton. You know, of course, we all know he got his start right here, just a shop just down the street from where we are. And so many Vermonters followed in his path, you know, to do all kinds of things, including just local kids who did a great job. And it's really an honor to be here for the state to have said this is a great thing. So, yeah, nice to be here.
Well, thank you for coming out.
Thank you.
What do you want to know about?
Well, what's happening here today?
All right, well, we got a dedication for Jake, and Donna's coming down to help show us a plaque that's coming up, and I even brought this from my snowboarding days.
Oh, I have seen those. You predate me. Cool. Great turnout,
That
too.
was way back when.
Oh, yeah.
(1977). A couple of notable things happened that year. Elvis Presley died. The original Star Wars movie was released. New York City suffered a massive blackout. Apple Computer was incorporated. Jimmy Carter was sworn as our 39th president. But there was also something else especially significant about 1977 to many around here. An incredibly passionate and persistent tinkerer named Jake Burton Carpenter came to Londonderry with an idea he was obsessed with. He set up a workshop right down the road from here on Main Street. He hired a couple of employees, including Mimi and Mark Wright, who are here. I won't ask them to stand up because everybody else is standing up. He set up a workshop right down here on Main Street, and in the face of many friends who said, "What? Are you crazy?" started making his first snowboards. Jake's first workshop down Main Street was lost to fire a few years ago. It stood right across from a deer weighing station. I know, it's such a perfect location. Some were convinced that the building was just a front for a drug operation, but would that stop things? No way. When looking back, Mimi and Mark tell people they would sniff glue from fabricating the boards all morning. They'd stagger over to the mill right here, have a sandwich, then walk back to the workshop for an afternoon of sniffing. I guess OSHA didn't have much of a footprint here in Londonderry. But more than that, Mimi and Mark are still here, alive and well. So why Londonderry? As crows fly, it was in the epicenter of southern Vermont area ski locations, including Stratton, Bromley, and Magic Mountains. And as important, this whole area was littered with skiing fanatics. This was important to Jake. And all these years later, many still live in our little town of Londonderry. Mimi and Mark Wright, who I mentioned earlier, Lyle Blaisdell, who's here, who played a major role in the development of half pipes. Hobie Chittenden, known early on as the half-pipe acrobat. Ross Powers, who won a gold medal at Salt Lake's Winter Olympic Games in 2002, and before that, a bronze at Nagano Games in 1998. Herbert Schriebel, who's also here, snapping pictures. One of sport's most prolific photographers, and more standing among you that I'm sure I'm forgetting, but please forgive me. Today, many years after Jake Burton Carpenter just happened to come to our little pleasant village, we're here to recognize Jake's contribution to Londonderry, Vermont, and winter sports around the world. At this time, let me take a moment to thank Laura Trishman, Vermont State Historic Preservation Officer, for so enthusiastically supporting our efforts to install a Vermont roadside historic marker in Londonderry, and she's here with a gaggle of people. And let me thank all of you for being here today to help us dedicate this tribute to Jake and the birthplace of Burton Boards. So, now it gives me great pleasure to introduce Donna Carpenter, owner and chair of the Board of Burton.
Hi, Londonderry! What a day! Oh my God, being here brings back so many different feelings. Gratitude, nostalgia, inspiration. Remember he talked about the early days when he would go out, he had an old Volvo, he'd go out and he'd load it up with snowboards, and early on he went out with I think 40 snowboards and he came back with 45. Because the dealer said, we don't want this shit, it's not working. But he left his friends, his family, he left a great job in New York City, and he moved here because he had grown up skiing here, and this place was really magic for him. It's where he spent every winter vacation with his parents, his brother George, his sisters Catherine and Carolyn. And you know, Carolyn was actually, who's here, Carolyn's back there somewhere, in the red. She was telling us a story last night about how if she and Jake worked the lunch rush at Stratton, they got free tickets. So I think that he had a sense of this being a place of if you work hard, you could still have a lot of fun. So like Bob said, in December of '77, he moved here. He started out of a barn in a house where he was the live-in caretaker, taking care of 2 horses in exchange for rent. And he worked as a bartender and dishwasher at the Birkin House. In exchange, Amo Henrik let him use his woodworking shop during the day. By day, he built makeshift snowboard prototypes and tested them right here in the back hills of southern Vermont. Some of you were there with him during those times, experimenting with different prototypes, trying to make those 50 boards a day, even though you could never sell them, and helping him try to sell those boards door to door. He came up with a logo, thanks to Mimi Wright Lyons now, who's here. He came up with this mountain logo that we have used as a symbol of our company since the beginning. Fast forward, Burton is a multi-$100-million company with offices in 7 countries and over 1,000 employees worldwide. And snowboarding has millions of participants around the world. It's actually really surreal to think about that. Londonderry is where it started, and right there at the Mill Tavern is where my story with Jake and Burton started. It was New Year's Eve. I saw him coming out of the bathroom, and I thought, oh, he looks kind of cute, right? And he said to me, can I buy you a drink? And I said, number 1, I think you can do better than that. Number 2, what are you drinking? He was drinking Jack Daniels and milk. And he had a wad of weed in his lower lip. And it was all for a bad stomach. He worked 14, 15, 16-hour days by himself making these prototypes. He was exhausted. He was eating Slim Jims and drinking black coffee for breakfast. He always said, well, he did say like all the hard work at Burton started before I met him in 82. He really got the hard work done. But he also said I cured his ulcer. Jake used to call Burton our first baby before we had our 3 sons, one of who's here. You can't miss him because he's 6'8". Taylor is here. Didn't give up. He knew he wasn't going to get rich. He knew it wasn't going to be quick. I used to always marvel at a guy who failed shop class and could not put together an IKEA dresser to save his life. Somehow started a manufacturing business out of sheer determination. So in that way I've said, you know, I don't know what the next 40 years of Burton and snowboarding is going to be, but I know we're going to be in Vermont. Vermont has always it's in our DNA. I think in order to survive Vermont winters, as you all know, you have to have grit, determination, you have to be a strong individual, but you can't do it without a strong community. And I really believe that that was the gift that Londonderry gave Jake. The sense of if you work hard, try hard enough, and don't take no for an answer, you will succeed, but you can never do it alone. You need a community to support you and to be there for you in the hard times. So the other feeling I feel today really is inspiration because of this community in Londonderry who's here to support us as we unveil this historic marker, the community of snowboarders around the world who are like-minded people wanting to stand sideways on snow, a simple idea with incredible consequences. You know, I always quote Governor Scott when Jake passed said, it takes millions of years to move mountains. Jake Burton Carpenter did it in a single lifetime. He changed the mountains. So as you can imagine, the last few years have been difficult for me, both personally and professionally, losing Jake. The loss of Jake shook our family and this community to its core, but it is communities like this where people like all of you come together out of love for snowboarding, a sport that Jake pioneered right here in Londonderry that makes it all worth it. So thank you for the love you've shown Jake and my family through your work of this historic marker. Thank you for putting so much time and energy into the first tracks exhibit, which I hope you'll all check out, at the Londonderry Historical Society. Even though the town endured what Bob talked about, severe flood damage in July, you never gave up on bringing this exhibit to life. And last but not least, for all of those who were here back in the 70s when Jake made Londonderry the first home of Burton Snowboards, thank you for being there for him in the workshop and on the local hills. Thank you for always believing in him. I know today he would be humbled and grateful for all the work you've done in recognizing the birthplace of Burton. So before we go to take a look at the historic marker and check out the exhibit, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce Southern Vermonter and 5-time Winter Olympian, the most winningest snowboarder, male or female, that the sport has ever seen, and always a personal inspiration to me and Jake. Kelly Clark.
nice to see so many familiar faces here today.
Get that mic right up in the grill.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'm going to share a little bit about the role that I kind of play in this grand picture of snowboarding that we all have an intricate role in. As Donna mentioned, I had the privilege of representing Vermont and the U.S. At 5 different Winter Olympic Games. I was able to come home with 3 medals, and this next winter will mark 25 years of my partnership, sponsorship, and friendship with Burton Snowboards. I grew up not far from here in Westover, Vermont, and I started snowboarding in 1990. It was the first year it was even allowed at my home resort. And I like to say that I started snowboarding before it was cool, but I'm pretty sure we can all agree here that Jake and Donna were the ones that really did that, and many of you all in this crowd today. My parents told me that I could be anything that I wanted to be when I grew up, until I told them that I wanted to be a professional snowboarder, and they said, yeah, that's not really a thing, anything but that. As many of you remember, snowboarding just really wasn't established yet. And I remember I was 14 years old, and I had recorded the 1998 Olympics on a VHS tape. Anybody? VHS? And I watched local hero here, Ross Powers, win a bronze medal in the Nagano Olympics. And I just had this thought. I thought, if that kid from Vermont could win an Olympic medal, maybe this kid from Vermont could do the same thing. Much like Jake and Ross, I knew that snowboarding was a thing that I wanted to give my life to. And I spent the better part of my life chasing down that Olympic snowboarding dream, and the rest is history. Snowboarding has come a long way from then, and an even longer way from when it started in a workshop here in this town. I'm grateful to have been part of it, but none of us would be here without Jake and Donna's vision for what could be. They inspired countless people like myself that we could also turn nothing into something. Jake pioneered and created an entire industry. He created a sport, and we were the home team, and he never stopped cheering for us. I'm pretty sure at most Olympics, Vermonters bring home more medals than most countries, which is pretty awesome. Vermont is a special place, and Burton is a special company. As you all know, it's the people that make an organization turn from good to great. I believe without vision, belief, endurance, and community, you don't make it very far in life, as a company or as an athlete. I'm forever thankful for the Carpenter family, for their belief and commitment to me and to snowboarding. We all owe them a lot of gratitude for giving us such a wonderful gift like snowboarding. So let's give it up one more time for the Carpenter family. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, thank you.
Seems like a million years ago.
Well, hi everyone. So the story starts this way.
1977, and goes on into the New York New England Championship.
And then I'll start it again for anybody.
The very first
Cool.
US Open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we let you stop at Ross as far as we go, because this is really how things happen. Hi there. So well done. And we do want you to tell your story.
We boys.
I have to remote, that's my job. Keep going.
And in the beginning, we stuck out like a sore thumb. We had one board, we didn't have ski boots on, we didn't have poles, we were just, I think, anti-establishment. You're a rebel. What you're doing is irreverent. When you're in powder, you do a turn, and then there's so much snow that flies into your face and you can't see a damn thing. It's just... My name is Jake Burton Carpenter. And I am referred to as a father of snowboarding. I'm proud, I'm immensely proud of that. As a kid, I just always loved snow. It was something that just grabbed me. That whole winter mood and vibe was something that I loved right as a very young child. I was 13 or 14 when I got my first surfer, which was simply like a skateboard for snow, and it was nothing more than a piece of wood that was curved on the end. It had a rope on the front. That's how you would sort of maintain your balance and not lose it. I bought a surfer, and I just fell in love with this sensation of surfing in snow. And I saw sport there from a very young age. I mean, and I always thought that they would do it, and it sort of was a fad that came and went, but it never left me. But I knew that you needed to have your feet better attached to the binding.
Well, that's a wrap. Wonderful dedication ceremony came down here. My first board was a Burton Air 168 centimeter, and I wanted to see if it was possible to do a handstand on it. It was not easy. I was only 50 years old at the time, and that was 27 years ago. Anyhow, this is Pat Moore reporting for Okemo Valley TV.